The genesis of Aztec mythology, a journey through time and belief. Aztec mythology is one of the most intricate, vibrant, and profound mythological systems in human history. Emerging from the heart of ancient Mesoamerica, this cosmology is deeply entwined with the culture, politics, and everyday life of the Aztec civilization, which thrived between the 14th and 16th centuries. To understand Aztec mythology is to explore the spiritual core of a people whose empire was as expansive and complex as their religious ideas. The mythology of the Aztecs is a fusion of indigenous Mesoamerican beliefs, influenced by centuries of cultural exchange and conquest. It encompasses the creation of the universe, the gods and goddesses who govern it, the endless cycles of birth, death, and rebirth, and the eternal quest to balance the forces of order and chaos. This documentary delves into the genesis of this mythological system, tracing its roots through time and space, unraveling its origins, and exploring the cosmic drama that shaped the worldview of an entire empire. Chapter 1. Ancient Mesoamerican Roots. The origins of Aztec mythology can be traced to the broader context of ancient Mesoamerican civilizations that preceded the Aztecs, including the Olmecs, the Maya, the Toltecs, and others. The Olmecs, often regarded as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, flourished between 1500 BCE and 400 BCE. While little is known about their religious beliefs, they are thought to have laid the foundations for later Mesoamerican cosmology. The Olmecs introduced concepts such as the sacredness of the jaguar, the duality between day and night, and the early pantheon of gods who would later evolve in the Aztec tradition. Another significant influence came from the Maya, whose complex calendar systems, astronomical knowledge, and pantheon of gods like Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, and the maize god would echo throughout Aztec mythology. By the time the Aztecs rose to power, around the 14th century CE, they were drawing from a deep well of Mesoamerican cultural and religious traditions. But they would transform these influences into something uniquely their own, adapting the stories of gods, heroes, and cosmic events to fit their own historical and political circumstances. Chapter 2. The Aztecs Arrive, a Journey to the Promised Land. The Aztec people, originally a nomadic tribe from northern Mexico, called themselves the Mexica. According to their own origin myth, the Mexica were led by their patron god, Huitzilopochtli, on a long journey from the mythical homeland of Aztlan to find a new home. This migration is a crucial episode in Aztec mythology because it establishes the divine mandate that legitimized their rule. Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and the sun, told the Mexica to search for a sign. An eagle perched on a cactus, devouring a snake. This vision, which they eventually saw on an island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, marked the founding of Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire. The symbolism of the eagle, snake, and cactus would become central to Aztec iconography and cosmology, reflecting the constant tension between light and darkness, creation and destruction, and life and death. This journey to the Promised Land, guided by divine intervention, mirrors other mythological migrations found in cultures around the world, symbolizing both a literal and metaphorical search for order in the universe. It also set the stage for the Mexica to build their empire, with the belief that their rise was not only a historical event but a sacred destiny. Chapter 3. The Five Suns, Aztec Cosmology and the Cycles of Creation. One of the most important and foundational aspects of Aztec mythology is the story of the five suns, which explains the creation and destruction of the universe in five distinct cycles. This myth reflects the Aztec belief in the cyclical nature of time and the constant struggle between the forces of creation and destruction. In the beginning, there was nothing but darkness and the primordial waters. From this chaos emerged Ometecuhtli and Ometecuhtli, the dual creator gods, who gave birth to four other gods, each associated with a cardinal direction: Tezcatlipoca, north; Quetzalcoatl, west; Huitzilopochtli, south; and Xiphotep, east. These gods played central roles in shaping the cosmos and guiding its destiny. According to the myth, there were 5 epochs or suns in total, each one representing a different age of the world, and each ruled by a different god. Each sun ended in a cataclysmic event, only for the cycle to begin again. 1. The first sun, Jaguar sun, was ruled by Tezcatlipoca, the god of night and sorcery. In this age, giants roamed the earth, but Tezcatlipoca was overthrown by his brother Quetzalcoatl, and the world was destroyed by jaguars. 2. The second sun, Wind Sun, was ruled by Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god of wisdom and wind. This era ended in a great hurricane that turned humans into monkeys. 3. The third sun, Rain Sun, was ruled by Tlaloc, the god of rain and fertility. A rain of fire ended this epoch, and the people of the earth were turned into birds. 4. The fourth sun, Water Sun, was ruled by Calcayutlacu, the goddess of water and rivers. This age ended in a great flood, and the people were turned into fish. 5. The fifth sun, Earthquake Sun, is the current age, ruled by Tonatiuh, the sun god. According to Aztec belief, this world will eventually be destroyed by earthquakes. This era's continuation depends on the nourishment of the sun through regular human sacrifice, a practice central to Aztec religious life. This myth of the five suns not only explains the cyclical nature of time in Aztec cosmology, but also underscores the precariousness of existence. The Aztecs believed they were living in a fragile moment of balance, constantly threatened by cosmic forces that could end their world at any time. Chapter 4. The Pantheon of Gods and the Duality of Nature. At the heart of Aztec mythology is a vast and intricate pantheon of gods and goddesses, each representing different aspects of nature, human experience, and the cosmos. These deities were often dualistic, embodying opposing forces such as creation and destruction, light and darkness, life and death. This duality reflected the Aztec belief in the interdependence of opposing forces that maintain the cosmic order. Huitzilopochtli. As the god of the sun and war, Huitzilopochtli was the patron deity of the Aztecs and symbolized their martial spirit and divine mandate. His battle against the forces of darkness every night, only to rise again each morning, mirrors the human struggle for survival and the inevitability of death. Quetzalcoatl. The feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl, was a complex god of wind, learning, and creation. He was also associated with the morning star, Venus, and was revered as the bringer of civilization, the inventor of the calendar, writing, and the arts. His myth often centers on themes of creation, sacrifice, and redemption, portraying him as a god who both creates and destroys. Tezcatlipoca, the god of night, sorcery, and fate. Tezcatlipoca was a mysterious and fearsome deity. Often depicted with a smoking mirror, he represented the unpredictable and chaotic forces of the universe. He was a rival of Quetzalcoatl and played a central role in many myths, particularly those involving the creation and destruction of the world. Tlaloc and Calcayutlacu. The rain god Tlaloc and his consort, Calcayutlacu, were crucial deities in Aztec agriculture. They controlled the rains, floods, and waters necessary for life, but were also associated with the destructive power of storms and droughts. These gods embodied the dual nature of water as both life-giving and deadly. Mictlantecutli. The lord of the underworld, Mictlantecutli, ruled over the dead and the dark realm of Mictlan, where souls of the deceased would journey after death. Though feared, he was a necessary part of the cycle of life, governing the return of all things to the earth. The Aztecs understood their gods as part of a living, ever-changing cosmos, and their myths often reflect the tension between the forces these gods represented. The gods themselves were not immortal. They, too, were subject to the cycles of creation and destruction that governed the universe. Chapter 5. Human Sacrifice and the Sacredness of Blood. One of the most notorious aspects of Aztec mythology and religion was the practice of human sacrifice. To the Aztecs, this was not merely a ritual of death but a sacred act of life-giving sacrifice. According to their beliefs, the sun god Tonatiuh required nourishment to continue his journey across the sky, and this nourishment was the blood and hearts of human beings. The Aztecs believed that the gods had sacrificed themselves to create the world, and in return, humans had a sacred duty to offer sacrifices to keep the cosmic balance. The most important of these sacrifices occurred during the festival of Toxcatl, when the Aztec people would offer up the heart of a captured warrior to honor Tezcatlipoca. Chapter 6. The Myth of the Divine Sacrifice. The roots of human sacrifice in Aztec mythology are tied to the myth of divine self-sacrifice, particularly the story of how the sun and the moon were created. According to Aztec legend, the gods gathered at Teotihuacan, the ancient city of the gods, to decide who would become the sun and illuminate the world. Two gods stepped forward: Texistecatl, a wealthy and proud deity, and Nanahuatzin, a humble, diseased god. The gods decreed that they both must sacrifice themselves by throwing themselves into a great fire to become the sun. Texistecatl, despite his wealth, hesitated and failed to jump into the flames, whereas Nanahuatzin, showing great humility and courage, leaped in without hesitation, transforming into the sun. Shamed by his hesitation, Texistecatl finally threw himself into the fire as well and became the moon, his light dimmer than Nanahuatzin's. This myth reflects the Aztec values of sacrifice and humility, showing that even the gods had to give their lives for the benefit of creation. The burning of the gods to create the sun and moon also explains the origin of human sacrifice. The gods' self-immolation made it necessary for humanity to repay the gods with sacrifices to keep the sun alive and the cosmos functioning. Chapter 7. Tenochtitlan and the Ritual Calendar. The sacred calendar of the Aztecs, known as the Tonalpwali, was deeply intertwined with their mythology and religious practices. This 260-day calendar guided not only daily life, but also the scheduling of religious festivals, ceremonies, and sacrifices. The Aztecs believed that time itself was sacred and that each day was governed by a specific deity with its own characteristics and influences. Important religious ceremonies were scheduled according to this calendar, including the Xiuhmalpilli or New Fire ceremony, which took place every 52 years, marking the end of one cycle of the calendar and the beginning of the next. The New Fire ceremony was a particularly dramatic event. As the end of a 52-year cycle approached, the Aztecs believed that the world might come to an end. On the night of the ceremony, all fires in the empire were extinguished, and priests would gather on a hill outside Tenochtitlan to await the appearance of the Pleiades constellation. If the Pleiades appeared at the right time, the priests would light a new fire, signaling that the gods were still satisfied with human offerings and that the world would continue for another 52 years. The new fire was then distributed throughout the city, and a new cycle began. This emphasis on cosmic cycles and the necessity of human sacrifice to sustain the universe shows how deeply intertwined religion, time, and politics were in Aztec culture. Chapter 8. The Aztec View of the Afterlife. Aztec mythology also included detailed beliefs about the afterlife, which were complex and multifaceted, depending on how a person died rather than how they lived. There were several possible destinations for the dead, each ruled by specific deities and shaped by the circumstances of one's death. 1. Mictlan, the underworld. Most people, particularly those who died of natural causes, were believed to journey to Mictlan, the land of the dead. It was ruled by Mictlantecutli and his wife, Mictecacituatl. The journey to Mictlan was perilous, taking 4 years and involving dangerous obstacles like crossing rivers, mountains, and deserts. At the end of this journey, the soul would finally rest in peace. 2. Tlalocan, the paradise of Tlaloc. Those who died from water-related causes, such as drowning or diseases associated with water, were thought to go to Tlalocan, a paradise overseen by Tlaloc, the rain god. This afterlife was depicted as a lush and fertile place, full of abundance, in stark contrast to the harsh and barren underworld. 3. Tonatiuh Ilhuacac, the house of the sun. Warriors who died in battle, women who died in childbirth, and victims of sacrifice were believed to ascend to the eastern heavens, where they joined Tonatiuh, the sun god. Here, they would help carry the sun across the sky each day. After 4 years of this honored existence, their souls would transform into hummingbirds and butterflies. These afterlife beliefs reinforce the value the Aztecs placed on certain forms of death, particularly those that involved sacrifice or service to the gods. Dying in a way that pleased the gods, especially through battle or childbirth, was seen as the highest honor. Chapter 9. Aztec Mythology in Daily Life. Aztec mythology was not confined to grand cosmic events or the distant gods. It permeated every aspect of daily life, from agriculture to warfare to the social structure of the empire. The myths of gods like Tlaloc were crucial for farmers, who relied on rituals and sacrifices to ensure good rains for their crops. Warriors, the elite of Aztec society, drew their identity from gods like Huitzilopochtli and honored the fallen in battle with ceremonies that tied them to the sun god's eternal struggle. The temples of Tenochtitlan, particularly the Templo Mayor, were microcosms of the Aztec universe. The Templo Mayor was dedicated to both Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc, symbolizing the dual importance of war and agriculture in Aztec life. Each year, the temple was the site of numerous rituals that reenacted mythological events, bringing the divine drama into the heart of the city and ensuring the continued favor of the gods. Even the design of Tenochtitlan reflected Aztec cosmology. Built on an island in Lake Texcoco, the city was divided into 4 quadrants, mirroring the 4 cardinal directions governed by different gods. At the center stood the Templo Mayor, the Axis Mundi, or sacred center of the world, where the heavens, earth, and underworld met. This spatial organization reinforced the Aztecs' belief that their city was the center of the cosmos, chosen by the gods themselves. Chapter 10. The Fall of the Aztec Empire and the End of an Era. Aztec mythology was dramatically altered when the Spanish arrived in the early 16th century. Led by Hernán Cortés, the Spanish conquistadors formed alliances with enemy city-states of the Aztecs and marched into Tenochtitlan in 1519. The encounter between these two worlds, one steeped in Christian theology, the other in a rich polytheistic tradition, led to the eventual destruction of the Aztec Empire. In Aztec mythology, the arrival of the Spanish was deeply significant. Some Aztecs initially believed that Cortés might be Quetzalcoatl, returning as prophesied to reclaim his kingdom. The ambiguity of this myth may have contributed to Moctezuma II's indecision in dealing with the Spanish invaders. With the fall of Tenochtitlan in 1521, the Spanish imposed their own religion on the surviving population, converting many Aztecs to Christianity and systematically destroying temples, religious texts, and cultural artifacts. Despite this, many elements of Aztec mythology survive through oral tradition, syncretized with Christian beliefs. Gods like Tenantzin, the mother goddess, were merged with the Virgin Mary, and some rituals persisted in hidden forms. Conclusion: Legacy of Aztec mythology. Although the Aztec Empire was dismantled, its mythology has survived in various ways. It lives on in the cultural identity of modern Mexico, from the symbolism on the Mexican flag, which depicts the eagle, snake, and cactus from the founding myth of Tenochtitlan, to the preservation of Nahuatl language and the continued reverence for ancient ruins. Aztec mythology offers a window into a worldview that saw the universe as a fragile, ever-changing balance of forces. It was a world filled with gods who could be both benevolent and fearsome, where humanity played a critical role in sustaining the cosmos through sacrifice, devotion, and ritual. The stories of the gods, the creation and destruction of the world, the cycles of the sun, and the journey to the afterlife reflect universal themes of life, death, and rebirth that continue to resonate today. As we uncover more about the Aztecs through archaeology and scholarship, their mythology remains a vibrant testament to a civilization whose vision of the world was as vast and complex as the empire they built.